Hey, what's up you guys? This is Steffi, aka In My Humble Opinion, and welcome back to another Fan Reaction Friday video. In today's video, it's not a reaction video though, it is a Q&A. It's our The Crown Season 4 Q&A. Before we get started, I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, apologies for this video being a little bit later than promised. I received an overwhelming amount of questions, about 60-ish different people submitted through the YouTube comments, email, tweets, DMs, and impressively got a lot of voicemail messages through Instagram and through email. So I really was not expecting that incredible turnout. So because of that, that's why it took me a little bit longer than I was intending. And on that note too, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for submitting your questions and participating in the Q&A. And because I got so many questions, there's no way that I could answer every single question that was submitted. So if your question isn't in this Q&A, do know that I saw every single question and I thought long and hard about every single one, whether to include it or not. I was trying to come up with a nice flow of questions that made sense, but regardless of that, like, still thank you so much for taking the time to submit your questions, especially from different parts of the world. It's just like crazy that so many different people from so many different countries are watching, obviously The Crown, but also watching these videos. So thank you so much for that. And all right, let's just get into the Q&A. Get comfy because I'm sure this is going to be a long video. I have my laptop here. Let's listen.
Hi Steffi, my name's Cian. I'm from Dublin, Ireland. I just wanted to ask a fairly basic kind of question. Just, did you have any interest in the royals before the show? Did you know much about them? Did you know you were going to watch the show when you heard about it straight away? Or has all your interest kind of peaked as you were watching the seasons? And just a quick fun fact, I have been to the pier called Mullaghmore in County Sligo where Lord Mountbatten was killed. Just a fun fact. So yeah, happy holidays.
I like the way that ends. So yeah, happy holidays. Thank you, Cian from Dublin, for sending in your question. That's so cool. Also, like, really cool that you've actually been to that place, Mullaghmore. I mean, that's really sad, but that's still like pretty cool. So you have a bunch of different questions, and I thought starting off the Q&A in this way felt like fitting. So your first question was, did you have any interest in the royals before the show? Honestly, the only time I really cared about the royals is whenever there would be like a royal wedding. So, but other than that, they really were not on my radar at all prior to watching The Crown. Did you know much about them? No, I didn't know much about them, hence why I really enjoy watching the show, even though, and we're gonna get into this a little bit later, obviously you can't take what you're watching, like every single second and minute of the show, you like can't take it as like fact, but yeah, that's why I had an interest in watching the show. Did you know you were going to watch the show when you heard about it straight away, or has all your interest peaked as you were watching the seasons? First of all, I'm someone who I really like biopics, or biopics, however you pronounce it. Like, I love that genre of movies and TV shows, just getting the chance to learn about a person's life, specifically like iconic figures. That's just something that's always interested me. And then when I heard it was through Netflix, and I think at the time too they were saying like this was Netflix's most expensive show at the time. I don't know if that still holds true, but I remember like reading different articles that were saying that. And then the thing that really got me interested too was the format of the show. When it comes to the biopic genre, specifically too when it comes to biopic movies, sometimes you feel like it's rushed, and it's really because you can only tell so much of a person's life within a 2-hour time span. And if you do it that way, it's like, well, you either gloss through the nitty details of their life, or you're choosing a very specific moment in time to focus on for like those 1.5 to 2 hour worth of a movie. So yeah, that's really for me why when I first heard about the show, I more or less knew this was something up my alley because it just ticked so many boxes. Next question is from the Philippines, and it's actually a video, so.
Was there a point in series 4 that you wish you didn't watch the documentary about the life of Princess Diana?
All right, well, thank you, Rio Deliso from the Philippines, for first of all, not just sending a voicemail message, but sending a video message. That's like awesome. I've never done anything like that before. So future Q&A people, if you want to submit questions like this, you're open to doing it like this as well. Yes, so prior to watching season 4, because I knew this was the Diana and Charles introduction of that storyline, a couple days prior to watching season 4, I watched this documentary called In Her Own Words, which is on Netflix, at least here in the United States. I remember when I was watching episode 3 of The Crown specifically, there were moments as I was watching that episode where I found myself remembering certain elements of the documentary, and I was like, wait, but did this happen? Because like in the documentary they said this happened, but it hasn't happened yet in the show, or oh, they skipped that, blah 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 blah. And while I was watching that specific episode, I had to catch myself and like stop myself from thinking that way, because I feel like you can get easily trapped in that mindset, and that can actually lessen your enjoyment of the show if you're keeping a tracker of this happened but they didn't show it yet, or that's not exactly how this happened. And I think for me, that's why I enjoy the show so much, because I don't know that much about the royal family, so I'm not playing that mental game throughout. So maybe initially I had some moments where I was like, oh dang, I wish I didn't watch the documentary. But at the same time, there were certain elements that they didn't talk about in The Crown that the documentary was able to fill in the gaps for me, at least like mentally. So I'm kind of like 50-50 on that one. I don't know if I necessarily would want to watch like an in-depth documentary prior to watching the next season of The Crown, because I just like really want to enjoy the show for what it is. Next question is, it's an interesting one. It's from Osler from India. Osler wants to know, although Princess Diana went through so much throughout her life from such a young age, from the bulimia to the failure of her marriage, has the life and work of the Queen of Hearts inspired you in your life? Well, I didn't really know too much about Princess Diana other than like very basic facts, but from what little I did know about her growing up, I think the thing that seemed very prominent was her humanitarian work, and that she helped a lot of different people and cared for a lot of different causes around the world, and specifically causes that kind of had some sort of like stigma around it at the time. Actually, there was another person that submitted a question for the Q&A, and she said something really interesting, so I'm gonna play it right now. This is Cameron from the US.
I do want to comment on, I'm sure you were much too young to remember this, but at the time when Diana was hugging people who had HIV and shaking hands with them, there was still a stigma that HIV could be transmitted through touch. And in fact, people were incredibly shocked that she did this. It was quite shocking at the time. I know for the high school that I went to, there was a blood drive that was canceled because parents were concerned because they heard you could get HIV from blood donations, because the town I grew up in was not full of smart people. Oak Harbor, Washington, still hate ya. Shout out to Oak Harbor High School. Go Jerks.
The thing I will say about Diana that I think anyone can take from her is the fact that she was so down to earth, and for someone of that stature to be so generous and open and willing to actually engage in human interaction, you know, she really doesn't have to be nice or anything, but like, you know, that's how down to earth she was. I think that's something that we can like all take as a positive trait to practice in our own life. So yeah, that's what I would say for that. The next question is from Australia, and it's Miss Lorelei. She says, hi, do you think they portrayed Diana's eating disorder in an appropriate and realistic way? Love your vids. Yeah, I think they did. I think it's really cool that they didn't shy away from that. I mean, something that they could have easily done in terms of like portraying her bulimia is if it's sort of like a behind the door moment and we actually don't like see her engaging in the bulimia in that way. But at the same time, I didn't necessarily like feel it was gratuitous in any way. I'm someone who never had an eating disorder, so I can't really like speak from that point of view, but I thought they did portray that element of the story like fairly well. Next question is from Isabella Bertelli from Brazil. She says, do you think we're going to have a whole episode over the fateful week of Diana's death, or are they going to brush over it like they did with most of Diana's iconic moments? I feel like Diana's death is too big of a moment for them to like brush over, and I think I kind of understand when you say like her iconic moments. I'm assuming you probably mean like the wedding, because that wasn't necessarily something that was shown. It was more so like building up to the wedding, and then we saw the dress, and then the episode was over. But I think in the case of her death, obviously the death is a huge plot point in the story, but I think the death of Diana is also part of a larger conversation that the show has been alluding to from the very beginning in terms of the royal family's relationship to media and paparazzi, and always being kind of viewed through a lens. And in a way, you could even make the argument the show is kind of been foreshadowing a tragic event like this happening. So I think they're not going to just gloss over it. Like, I think it is going to be an episode. And if they don't make it an episode, I feel like they will hear some backlash from people, because it was such, not just an event in the UK, but like that was a thing that really shook the entire world. So yeah, I don't think they're gonna gloss over it. Okay, the next question comes from the US. It's Miss Cameron. So here she is with her question. We saw her earlier.
Hello, in my humble opinion. This is Cameron coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. Few things for your Q&A. One, not a question, just a statement. I love your Diva Davies podcast. My absolute favorite episode is now the glitter episode, which I loved. So there's that.
Okay, I just wanted to take a moment and say, Cameron, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm gonna plug my podcast right now because this seems like an opportune time to do so. I host a podcast, it's called Diva Dailies. It's a podcast where we deconstruct divas on film and TV. It's something that I plug at the end of every video, but for those of you guys who, after watching the videos, sought out Diva Dailies and listen and actually are enjoying listening to the podcast now, like, thank you so much for taking the time to do so. So I just want to say thank you, Cameron, and I'm so happy you enjoyed that Mariah episode.
And then my question for the Q&A is, Princess Diana actually became extremely close to Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, Prince Andrew's wife. Why do you think the producers chose to reduce Sarah to a single frame? Because I felt like that could have given, if we had seen a conversation between the two of them, of course, being royal wives, I have no doubt they kvetched about the realities of royal life, and that would have really given us a bit more insight to Diana. Why do you think the producers chose not to include that? Do you think it was simply a matter of time, or did they not want to portray Diana in a particularly sympathetic light? Because I do think it was very brave of the producers this year to really portray Diana as an extremely difficult person, an extremely moody person, which by some accounts she was. Now, one of the big issues was she suffered severely from postpartum depression, which unfortunately was undiagnosed at the time. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Loving your Fan Friday reaction, loving Daily Divas podcast. All my best. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
I don't know too much about the relationship between, or the friendship between Diana and Sarah Ferguson. I do know my mom watched Sarah Ferguson's wedding, though. I remember that. And actually, it's so interesting that you bring up Sarah Ferguson because, you know, when I'm on YouTube, sometimes the videos will start getting recommended to me, and because I've been watching, like, The Crown and watching different interviews and stuff, Sarah Ferguson's interview with Oprah actually was recommended to me one day, and I watched it, and it was an interview she had done, I think Diana was still alive, based on how she was talking about their relationship. In that interview, she did talk about how they would more or less vent to and with each other about how difficult it is being part of the royal family.
But she went through her struggles, and the
Big time.
yes,
Big time.
and the tabloids, who are vicious. They're bad here, but they're vicious over there.
Absolutely.
Have you know, tried to kill her, literally.
Yeah, they have. And I think that that's what's so exciting about two best friends like Diana and I, is that we can grow together and transform together.
Did
and
you
we
know?
Support each other.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, but did you know how miserable she was?
No, she was very good at not showing it. Mm-hmm. And then when I was there and living there, I sort of got to know more and more the pain she was in. Yeah.
I feel like potentially the reason why they didn't expand on that friendship is potentially because it was cut for time. I follow the main director of The Crown Season 4 on Instagram. His name is Benjamin Karen. If you guys aren't on Instagram, or if you are on Instagram, I highly recommend you check out his Instagram because he's actually been posting some behind the scenes pictures of when they were shooting The Crown, and he's also been sharing some stills, and there have been certain stills that were from scenes that weren't actually in The Crown, and one of them was a still of a young Princess Diana, I'm assuming because he tagged Emma Corrin, who plays Diana on the show. So, you know, there is a possibility that perhaps maybe they did film something, but it was just cut out for time. With that being said, I won't be surprised, and maybe a little part of me now is expecting to hopefully see that friendship honored in some way in season 5. Next question comes from South Africa.
Hi Stephanie, my name is Nyuko. I'm from South Africa, and let me just say how much I love your channel. Your Crown reactions are my favorite. Reactions is my favorite reaction series for The Crown on YouTube. So my question is, do you think what they say on the show to Diana, because we're talking about the character Diana, because we'll never really know about the real Diana, that she uses her charm and charisma as a form of manipulation. Do you think that's true? That she uses it to make the royals look bad and uses how people love her to turn them against the royal family? Do you think that's true? What do you feel about that? Do you think she does it consciously or unconsciously? Can you tell me what your thoughts are on that? You should also check out Tampon Gate because it was crazy and it's something I think you would enjoy. Thanks again. Bye.
Damn, Nico, that was such a great question, and I will definitely check out Tampon Gate. That sounds very intriguing. I don't know, that sounds like a really interesting story, so I will definitely check it out. Wow, that's such a good question. Okay, I feel like Diana was someone who was aware that she had charm and she had charisma. Were there times when she would use that to her advantage? Sure, but I don't know if I would necessarily agree with the assertion that she was using her charm to manipulate people, period, and especially to sway the crowd to make people like her more than the royal family. And I don't know, maybe this is just like me perhaps naively looking at Diana through rose-tinted colored glasses here, but the impression that I got from the show was that she was someone who just had natural charm and charisma. Like, for example, in that episode when they went to Australia, when Charles was giving a speech and then she made a face, I genuinely, like, for me, I didn't take those moments as her being like, okay, I'm trying to like one-up him. I just took that as moments where Diana's natural personality was just like shining through. It's hard for me based on Diana the character in the show. I never took her as someone who was like scheming and someone who was conniving and manipulative in that way. I think she was someone who was aware of the charm that she had and aware of the effect that she had on people, but I don't think she was necessarily like using that power for bad, if that makes sense. So that would be my answer. Okay, so the next question comes from Perla from Mexico.
And I also want to know, what are your thoughts about the relationship between Charles and Camilla after watching this season? Like, if you feel more sympathetic towards them because of this, or you're just more mad at them? Because I truly thought that at the very beginning of the marriage, Charles was gonna be like, okay, let's try with Diana, but he truly never stopped seeing Camilla, and I don't know how to feel about it.
Oof, girl. I could sense you're like, if I see a picture of Camilla and Charles like in present day, I get like a little like, I like get like a little tense. And then in the back of my head too, I just like think, damn, Harry and William grew up seeing this person like in the background, or I don't know. I get a little upset thinking about Camilla and Charles after watching this season. Like, I feel like how can you not? And not to say that you can't sympathize and empathize for the circumstance that Charles was in. You feel bad too for Camilla because, like they established in that one episode, like Camilla was self-aware enough to know that if she becomes the mistress and the other woman in this relationship to the general public, they're gonna hate her because they love Diana so much. Like, she was self-aware enough to know that, so it's like, oh, I feel bad for you in regards to like that thinking, that perspective. I'm more so mad at Charles just based on the way they portrayed their story, because I feel like Charles towards the end especially was just so cruel and mean to Diana beyond like rationale. I wouldn't say like, damn, they won, but it's like crazy that to this day they still managed to end up being together. But at the same time, it's just like, I feel bad, and maybe part of the reason why I feel bad is because of how things ended up for Diana, and her death was not something that the two of them personally did to her, but there was a lot of pain that Charles specifically inflicted on Diana. So yeah, oh god, I'm gonna be avoiding Camilla and Charles pictures for the time being. Let's just say that. Okay, next question is about Diana, Camilla, and Charles as well. This question is from Kat from Puerto Rico. Kat says, I love your reaction videos so much. They are so funny and entertaining. I'm going to check out your podcast, and I love podcasts so much. I'm really excited. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Kat. Do you sympathize with Charles, or do you loathe him because of how much of a hypocrite he acted with Diana? I'm caught in between feeling bad for him and also hating him. I know that they never got affection from his family, but at the same time he was so cool to Diana. Yeah, so basically what I said in the previous answer, Kat, I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. I think you can sympathize for Charles, but at the same time loathe him.